On the day, history's been made. Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore are back to terra firma on planet Earth. How did it happen? What's behind it? Well, joining me on the other side is Neil deGrasse Tyson, the astrophysicist who answers all your questions. Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore have returned to Earth after spending 9 challenging months in space. This unplanned journey pushed the boundaries of human endurance, and in the process, one of India's most illustrious daughters, Sunita Williams, has once again defied limits and inspired generations. As we witness this milestone in human space flight, who better to break it down for us than the man who brings the cosmos closer to us? Astrophysicist, author, and science communicator extraordinaire, Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, joining us live tonight on the Newshour. Thank you very much for joining me, Mr. Tyson. How do you see this 8-day trip that turned into 9 months? Can't really call it working from home, but working from space for 9 months and then landing just off Florida's coast. What's going through your mind today?
Yes, so they got stuck at work. I think that's one way to think about it. However, when they realized they could not use the Boeing Starliner to return to Earth, and they would say, well, what's next in line? Well, you have to wait 9 months. The press reported it as though they were stranded in space, but that really there was half a dozen other astronauts on the space station. They had food, they had water, although the water is recycled urine, but that's okay. They figured out how to do that on the space station. Maybe they needed some extra pair of underwear, but that's it. So I could not think of that as a stranded situation. And they are professional astronauts. They have both Sunny and Butch have been in space multiple times before. And so, and who doesn't love space if you've been to space? So I didn't feel sorry for them at all. And almost every picture we all ever saw of either of them, they were smiling and tumbling, and they surely seemed like they were enjoying their time. But it is a delight to have them back healthy, and a reminder that space doesn't always go the way you planned. We should just all feel fortunate that we had a backup rocket to return them to Earth.
I don't know what to call you, stone-hearted, hard-hearted, because you didn't think, this is, any great big deal for space scientists. Maybe they should have just packed more than an overnighter. Maybe some extra clothes is all that they needed. You make it sound so simple. But is it really that simple? Yes, astronauts have spent more time in space, but unexplained and unintended, extension of being stuck at work, does that not carry its own challenges?
Yes, but astronauts, especially those from NASA, as opposed to what might be a tourist astronaut, where it's a one-timer for them. Professional astronauts, especially those selected by NASA, are generally emotionally and intellectually stable people. So you can imagine someone who would be just completely overwhelmed by the fact that they have to spend 9 months instead of 9 days in 0G, but not these astronauts. Also, the Sunita is top 4 of people of total number of days ever spent in space. Of course, this last trip added to that record, added to that standing. But like I said, they're highly experienced astronauts. So yeah, I didn't have any sympathy for them at all. I said, take me next time.
Oh my God. Okay. Maybe it's a thought we can leave with Sunita, Sunny as you call her. But let me ask you about the spacecraft. What's your take on both Boeing's Starliner and SpaceX's Dragon? I'm asking you this because the Starliner encountered technical issues leading NASA to return the spacecraft to Earth unmanned. We'd also like to hear your thoughts on the helium leakage and thruster failure that occurred during the mission.
Yeah, so NASA's being cautious. By the way, the Starliner returned to Earth safely, so that's an interesting data point for Boeing. But NASA did not want to take chances. There are thresholds above which NASA will say, no, let's go with Plan B. And of course, if the Starliner was the only way to return to Earth, then they would take that risk. But if you don't have to take a risk, then you don't. Then you won't. So, yes, Boeing will have to fix that problem if they want to stay in the game. But maybe we should instead celebrate the fact that there was an alternative. We are so active in space, just as a species, that one company's rocket fails us. We say, bring out the next company's rocket. And I'm old enough to remember when there was only ever one way to get to space, and there's only ever a couple of people in space at any given moment, if at all. And now, by the way, we just passed a recent milestone. The International Space Station has gone 25 years, a quarter century, being continually occupied by astronauts. So we are living in the future that so many of us imagined back in the 1950s and 60s. So yeah, I celebrate the fact that SpaceX came through. And yeah, Boeing is going to have to figure that one out next time, so they're not overlooked. If they've got some way to participate in this exercise.
So you don't think that SpaceX's Dragon is anywhere superior, do you think you're living in the future, so you now need to plan for traffic lights, maybe in space at zero G? How are they going to survive? You make it sound so simple, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Well, okay, so no, in the end of the day, it is rocket science. So let's just make that clear. It's not so much that it's simple. It's that we have done so much in space. I mean, think about it. Right now, there's an SUV-sized rover on Mars driving around, plunked down from a series of orbital maneuvers and entry maneuvers that's on Mars. That's just going on in the background, okay? And so we've been to space so many times and in so many different ways that we have options, and that's a good thing. And that's how it should be in the future. And what the takeaway here, I think, may be that in the future, if we have enough companies with rockets, let's have one backup, okay? Just in the garage, all right? And then if there's a problem, you roll that out, and so that it's not 9 months, maybe it's a few weeks, rather than what happened in this example. So I see it as a lesson to try to go that way in the future, yes.
Do you also think about the fact that some technical glitch also affected SpaceX, delaying the deployment of Crew 10? The fact that there was a delay which impacted Sunny and Butch, and do you think there are some lessons to take away from that particular incident?
Well, if it's the delay that had to scrub the launch a few days before it ultimately took off, yeah, like I said, space, it is rocket science. So many things have to work. So many and you've heard at the beginning of a launch where they say, mission control, are you ready? Ready for this and ready for that. There's a systematic approval of everybody's little piece of the operation of that mission that you go systematically through to make sure all systems go. That's what that phrase means. Not some systems go, all systems go, and then you take off. So Starliner SpaceX had problems on that first attempt, And so it did not launch. That's a good thing. You don't want disaster, especially with rockets that carry humans. So that was fixed, and then it launched successfully with the next crew to go occupy the space station. So then they swapped out, and I was delighted. I watched live as Sunita came out of, they put you in a little wheelchair, and you haven't walked in 9 months. And so it's not that she doesn't have the muscle strength, because they have ways of exercising on the space station to maintain some sort of physiological health. It's that there are many factors here, but the number one is that your inner ear, okay, you remember you learned in school about the
fluid inside.
What's it? Yeah,
Cochlea.
Inside your inner ear. That gives you balance. Okay,
yes.
This fluid in 3 little circular
yes.
Patterns that tells you when you're tipping over, when you're not. And in space, there's no use for that because there is no up or down. And so your body and your mind lose connectivity to these sensors. And so that takes a few days to recover. And my favorite thing they have to recover from is, I was told this by more than one astronaut, that at home, people hand them a refreshment and they drink from it, and then they just let go of it. And it just drops to the ground and breaks. So you lose a couple of glasses before you have full recovery there.
Just so you make it very clear that these are not expensive glasses that are given to them when they just come down. But
Yes.
Any other changes physiologically that you would expect somebody like Butch Wilmore and Sunita Williams to have? Because, of course, you would want the entire world to believe that the heart is nothing to do with emotions. It's only a pumping mechanism. But any other physiological changes that you think they would face?
Yes, so just to keep in mind, the body functions quite well in 0G. Consider when you're walking, yes, you have your veins and arteries move blood in and out of your heart through your lungs and all the rest of the important parts of your body. That's moving against gravity. But consider when you lay down horizontally, now the gravity vector is 90 degrees different from how you were when you were standing, and your body still functions. Well, that's interesting. And you can even sort of hang upside down for a while. No, it's not comfortable, but the body still functions that way. You can drink upside down if you needed to. This is the pulsing of your alimentary canal. So in space, the body is, in fact, everyone I know from space, they said, there's nothing like sleeping in 0G. I think when you're on a mattress, you're always tossing and turning. Oh, that's not comfortable. Well, there's no tossing and turning in space because there are no pressure points between you and any other surface. And so there's that. I also heard, and I don't fully understand why this happens, but I was told by Scott Kelly, who's an astronaut, has a twin, Mark Kelly, who became a politician, but they did a twin experiment in space with NASA to find out exactly what differences occurred between someone in space for a very long time and someone still down on Earth. But I'm told that there are pressure differences, there's a pressure problem that develops in your eye, and it changes the shape of your eyeball slightly. So from like nearsighted to farsighted or the reverse. And so there has to be some eye adjustments when you come back. So I don't fully understand why that would be the case, but I don't have training in medicine, but that's what I was told. So that seems to be a little more serious than if you just didn't stay on the treadmill as long as you should have.
Mr. Tyson, what do you make of the political fight that's erupted? The previous government could not bring back Butch Wilmore and Sunita Williams. Trump has delivered on the promise. Do you read anything into that, or is it just, more of a political slugfest there?
Yeah, it's a political slugfest. I think I would use that strong term for other issues. For this, for me, it was just sort of political jockeying, right? They try to get political
Brownie
see if you can get a political. Yeah, thank you. You get, and the fact is, when we knew we could not bring them back, we knew it would land in the next administration. And at the time we knew we could not bring them back, we did not know who the next administration would be. So if someone says, that I brought them back, okay, that would have been any president, whoever was president today would have said that. And so, by the way, something about NASA, which was very, I don't know if it's accidentally clever or purposefully clever, but NASA has 10 centers across the United States. In 8 states, and if you look at how those 8 states vote, traditionally over the years, there's 4 red, 4 blue, so a conservative liberal, 5 red, 3 blue, 5 blue, 3 red. That is the variation that it goes through. And what that ensures is that NASA always has bipartisan support because money flows into those states in support of these NASA missions. And there are people who have an aunt or an uncle who works at the NASA center, and it's a point of pride. I have family members who works for NASA putting people in space. And in India, the pride that being associated with anything space brings upon a family, a culture, a nation. So NASA has had an arc through American history in its last 65 years. That arc has been largely untainted by political infighting.
What do you think about the Indian space research that has happened so far? Some of the recent breakthroughs that we've seen from India. How do you rate them, and how do you see the future of Indian space research?
Yes, I don't rate space programs. I just comment. Okay, and I would say that I'm delighted to have India as a participant in the moving of this frontier in space. By the way, I remembered one of the headlines when India landed in the South Pole. The headline was, India becomes the 4th country to land on the moon. And I said, no, that's not the headline you want. The headline you want is, India is the first country to land safely at the South Pole. All right, that's a fascinating region of the moon where the sun never rises too high, and that's true for all polar regions of rotating planets. The sun doesn't rise too high, and there are crater rims where they are sufficiently high that sunlight never reaches the bottom of the crater. It's literally where the sun don't shine, and that means any water from comets that have hit the moon, and the moon has been hit before, just take a look at its surface with all the craters, any water that drops into the base of that crater will remain forever. It's called a cold trap. Water that falls elsewhere, H2O, the daytime sun will evaporate it. And so there's no water anywhere else on the moon except the bottom of these craters. If you're going to pitch tent on the moon, you want to do it in the South Pole. And India was the first out of the box to get there safely.
As we celebrate the homecoming of Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore, I want to ask you, when are you going on your mission to the moon, to the space, to Mars, wherever? Are you preparing for that?
Well, I'm coming along in years, all right? Although William Shatner went into space, and he was 90, the oldest person ever to go to space. John Glenn, America's first astronaut, went back into space when he was 82. He went to the space shuttle. So yes, people older than me have gone to space. I get that. But I'm an astrophysicist, and so when people say, "Are you going to go in space?" typically they mean into Earth orbit. And now, if you look at how far from Earth they are in orbit, just imagine Earth as a schoolroom globe and say, where is the space station if Earth is a schoolroom globe? It's the thickness of 2 coins above Earth's surface. That's, sorry, the Jeff Bezos and Branson trips that were taken. That's the thickness of 2 coins. The space station is about 1 centimeter above Earth's surface. And so when people say, do you want to go into space? I say, no, I don't want to boldly go where hundreds have gone before. Send me somewhere. Give me the moon, Mars, asteroids, beyond. Then I'd consider it, yes. But just driving around the block, I can't. You know, I don't poo-poo it publicly. Generally, for myself, send me somewhere to a destination, and then I'll put it on my calendar.
Thank you very much for joining me tonight, and we'll wait for your schedule of when you want to travel and the destination details. We'll help you with some of the packing there. Thank you very much, and all the very best. Thank you for joining me here on the Newshour tonight.
Delighted to participate. Thanks for having me.